Well, thank you, everybody. Gary, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for coming tonight. Absolutely fantastic. Gary and I were talking earlier. Hopefully Gary's up. We'll be calling into the Northern Lights radio show on night tonight. If he's up, if not, we're gonna get a hold of each other, get him onto the show, and start working together. This is part of what Matt was talking about. That he and I met years ago, 2009, I think it was. Yeah. CW, I think it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, you know what, I can't remember for the life of me how exactly you and I met, how exactly John and Ken and I can't remember the exact, that aha moment. I just know that eventually in 2009 we started getting together. You and Ken came on the show a couple of times. I went and spoke at some kickoff thing you guys had in January. But that's kind of, yeah, Greenwood Street.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where it started. That's kind of, that's the one thing that I can remember that really kind of put into my mind that this is going to be the shtick. Prior to that, I'd been working at WCUW, and I was like, what am I going to do? I don't know what's going on. You hear us a couple of months. I was like, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to play some tunes. I'd like to talk about some issues. Met these guys, interviewed them a couple of times, spoke at that event. Then I ended up hobnobbing with a bunch of the candidates, and that's when it hit me. That's when the idea of the candidate interviews was born for the Meat and Potatoes show. It's been an anchor of the show ever since then. We're in 2015-16, it's already launched. We just had Rusty Tao drive up from Rhode Island, sit down in our new studios over here in Worcester, Mass, and he did the first sit down. But since then, we've been having people call in, Skype into the phone, and just as Matt said, the company has been struggling along, but as time has gone on, better equipment, more equipment, we Skype, film, broadcast, YouTube, blog, and we do this. We do this every month, and we work together, and we've got a whole bunch of other events coming up, and we're thinking of preliminarily, probably didn't say that right, thinking of getting another candidate symposium going again this year like we did last year. It was great. It was great fun. It was great fun. And that's also part of the growth period. It's like I remember 2012 I got fired from the radio station. I'm out, I'm like, what am I going to do? Didn't even really have enough gear. By hook and crook, I just kept doing it. And then by 2014, fired in 2012, 2 years later, I had something like, what was it, like maybe a dozen candidates, sitting at a round table, whole bunch of people, some media outlets came, filmed the thing, wrote about the thing, of course we were there. But that's just the power of what we call citizen journalism. And it's all made up by just individual people. Tom Duggan has his own business, Gary has their own business, Janet has her own, everybody related into the media, I've got mine. And so, when I heard Gary talking earlier about the false narratives, the event is titled Media Biased and False Narratives. And the reason why I titled that is Matt and I have been going to these forums on bias and race. A couple of I wasn't able to go to. Matt's been going to a lot of them. But this is what, I remember the first one that we attended at Quinn Sig. And what had happened was a lot of us with cameras got a real cold shoulder from a few of the people there. Interestingly enough, I wrote about it in my blog site, talked about it on the radio show, and read what I call the diatribe on my radio show, all centered around this. Walter Berg, Tom Quinn, Gordon Davis, myself, all of us could have different political ideologies if we tried that as hard. None of us contacted each other during that evening. None of us saw each other during that evening. Neither of us collaborated on writing our articles. All four of us essentially wrote the same article because all four of us experienced that. Well, what are you guys doing here? Who are you? Well, I'm with this company. Well, there's no press allowed. Well, no, people might feel uncomfortable. They love to use that word. This is a safe place. That means secret. In fact, her name was Sonia Connor. And she got up as one of the speakers at the end of the night, the first night at Quinn Sig. Wayne and I were there, Matt's down there. We're down to the front row in front of the stage. We got our stuff going. And she's sitting in a corner chair. And
Giving us
she's
the
got
dirty
that,
eyeball.
she's got that look. And you can hear her talking to friends and they go,
It's called the dirty eyeball.
yeah, the hairy eyeball.
Hairy eyeball.
So anyway, that was it. Sure enough, I'm like, what's going on here? I don't know what's going on. This is what I mean about the four of us wrote the same article. Neither of us talked, neither of us collaborated. All four of our articles concentrated on who's this crazy broad? And what right does she have to tell us that media isn't allowed at events like this? And so I wrote about it in my blog here, and let me get some of this going here. So the thing is called media bias and false narratives. And we're trying to understand the concepts of tolerance and understanding as it pertains to the mindset of modern liberalism. One must negate from one's mind the concepts of tolerance and understanding as it pertains to modern liberalism. They are wholly incompatible. Modern liberalism does not seek to tolerate or understand anything. Modern liberalism seeks power and domination, and it will use any means necessary to ensure the capitulation of traditions, culture, liberty, freedoms, and patriotism. It will use our own enemies for its own self-interest and not blink one eye should the time come when they have to wipe those enemies out, should they threaten their liberal standards. In Albert Speer's book, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, Speer wrote about the wonderful new Germany that he was going to build. Albert Speer was to be the architect and chief designer of the Third Reich. And if anybody ever read that book, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, Speer describes in vivid detail the colonnade that's going to go down through the center of the city, leading up to the Reichstag, all the science, all the ministry buildings on each side. Everything is going to look beautiful. It's going to be a celebration of brand new Germany. And working with Goebbels together, they could show the German people through a relatively new medium called cinema, brave new world that Germany would be for the next 1,000 years. And what made this collaboration work was the power grab taken by the National Socialists just a few years earlier. And it was only, I think it was only 7% or something like that of the German people actually called themselves, quote unquote, a Nazi. If they were able to convince the other 93%, 25 million plus people into a frenzy of World War.
33% agreed to election.
There you go. With a combination of brilliant oration from the Fuhrer himself, tightly controlled media, and the complete takeover of everything related to the economy. Does that sound familiar? One of the 20th century's worst genocides followed. Does it sound familiar? What few could understand at the time was, why didn't the other people do anything? Why didn't the other 93% of the Germans say, do anything, rise up? True left-wing liberals today account for less than, plus or minus 20% of the population. They do control, though, most of the populated areas in the East and West Coast, and practically all the areas in government as far as employment is concerned. So, I mean, we could sit here and say, well, we need to do something about this. The problem is that you can't. It's far too late, you can't do anything, and you don't want to do anything. These are people, these are their lives, they wholly believe in this big government, this big control, this big power grab. They know what's better for you. They've been there, they have the education. They control the media and they'll put that message out. Entire generations now from grandparents and grandchildren have been raised on a prescribed political paradigm that government does know best. The social blueprints from Marx and Alinsky, and the technocratic ideals of Scott and Hubbard, and the big government constructs of Wilson and Roosevelt. They become an intrinsic part of the American history. They, and all those policies, are intrinsic to who we are today. We might not like them, I might not like them, but they affect practically every facet of our lives. And they can't be removed without any epic convulsions. And so when you get to an event like the ones that we've been attending, you end up having people who have this self-righteous, this self-imposed, this quite literally made up in their head idea that they know what's best, they're in control of the room, this is my job, and you're not allowed, and I'm wearing a badge, therefore I've said so. Officer, can you please remove this person from the room? And let me tell you something, folks. Every single time that happens, Gary's probably seen it, Janet's probably seen it, I know Tom runs into it all the time. I see it. There's a violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. It's even bigger than that. It's a violation of a God-given right. the God-given right to explore, know, gather knowledge, expose malfeasance, tell your friends about it, and maybe even report it to authorities if necessary. It's a God-given thing. It's something you're supposed to do as a human being. The First Amendment just codifies it. That's really all. It just puts it into it. We all know we're not supposed to murder. The Ten Commandments just codify it. That's all. So we get to these events, and they love these things, and I'll read about it in a second. These prescribed handouts. Trust me, anytime you go to a government-held function, you're going to get these damn handouts. They're unbelievable. This brings me to what I said when I titled the event, False Narratives. These are all false narratives. These are prescribed, what I said earlier, prescribed paradigms. I like to use that term a lot. It's something I've worked on a few years. It seems to nail the head. Prescribed paradigms. These are thought processes that are thought up and then codified down on paper. So you have here the definition of racism. This doesn't come from Oxford, doesn't come from Merriam-Webster, doesn't come from the American dictionary. It just comes from them. For purposes of these dialogues, racism equals prejudice plus power, a common phrase in the field. It is also described as a system of oppression based on the socially constructed concept of race exercised by the dominant racial group, and it says in parentheses, whites, over non-dominant racial groups. I don't know if you guys ever looked at any population demographics. The dominant group of people in the world, I'm just going to say it, they're brown-skinned people. We're the minority. But in the prescribed paradigm, they make us seem like somehow we're numerically dominant, intelligently dominant, physically, mentally, like, I don't know, pick any points you want.
We're Aryans.
Just put dominant at the end of that. We are the dominant ones. It is completely and wholly made up. They get into a second part here, and again, it's not Merriam-Webster, it's not in Oxford, it's not in the American Dictionary. Wait till you see who it's from. Bigotry. Intolerant prejudice that glorifies one's own group and denigrates members of other groups. This from the National Conference for Community and Justice in the St. Louis region. So in other words, another group got together, came up with a prescribed paradigm, said, yeah, that's the definition, and then they sent it up on the chain, and now it is the prescribed paradigm. All of this stuff in the groups that I attended, when I'm looking at it, I would say, excuse me, this definition is incorrect. You want to talk about tolerance and understanding? I got shouted down, shut down. One time I was asked to leave the group. That was the first night. But it's all about tolerance and understanding, right, folks? It was held a couple of Mondays ago at Quinn Sig, yeah.
Quinn Sig, they've been held at the schools. The city is really fully invested into this.
And then I guess the Monday night one is at Worcester Tech again, right? Up on Skyline. So just who are these self-appointed politicos and event organizers who are convinced that they have the ability and the balls to deny the filming of public events just on their say-so? As somebody who has repeatedly been denied access and or challenged in my right to be there to film and cover any public event, especially any political event, I have just had about enough of it. I really have. As a citizen journalist and owner of my own network, I not only have every right to film a political event, I have a responsibility to cover that event. My only limitations are that I can't be anywhere, like everywhere all the time. Does my lack of an official quote-unquote press pass put me in some sort of journalistic purgatory? If that's the case, I know people who can get me a press pass, swear an oath, take a few classes, affirmations, now suddenly, poof, does that make me one of the sneakers on the beaches? Really? Does it? I have a star on the arm? Look me, I'm a journalist now. Well, for that matter, why don't I just go online? I've got a color printer and a photo printer. I'll get out some fonts, paste my mug on it, print on press pass, put my company name, poof, out comes the printer. There you go, I'm an official journalist. Really? Seriously? That's, really? But the point I'm trying to say is people look at you and they're like, who are you? You see the press pass, you could be the man on the moon. As long as you're wearing that press pass button, will come right on in. Come right on in. But oh wait, who are you? Wait, stop, no, you can't, no. Nobody's allowed to do that, folks. Benjamin Franklin never had a trespass to my knowledge. None of the pamphleteers did during the War for Independence. In fact, the British Crown made it a law to hunt these people down. They were the bloggers of the time. They were how people got their news during the war. And their publications today are considered some of the greatest political journalistic writing ever in the history of the United States. It was the birth of our country. They covered it in their own little blogs, their own little, known as pamphleteers, pamphlets, little things that they run around and hand them out to you on the street corner. Same exists today with self-appointed spooks who try to barge and intimidate people like me with false claims. The press is not allowed at this event. Well, let me clue some of you people in on what's going on, some common knowledge. It's called the First Amendment to our Constitution, which I said. Second is a little-known Massachusetts Supreme Court decision passed a few years ago. I think it's called Mann versus the Massachusetts Supreme Court. It was a couple of years ago. It had to actually do with somebody filming police during an arrest on the street. Person was arrested, yada yada. Tom's nodding his head, he knows what I'm talking about. Person was arrested, yada yada. He ended up going to the Massachusetts Supreme Court. This person did not interfere with the arrest, charged taken it, wasn't even part of the arrest. He was just sitting there filming it, got arrested for it, took it to the Supreme Court, he won. Because he's filming something that is called filming in plain sight. Now let me also clue you in on something. Third, there's no reasonable expectation of privacy when holding a public event. Now listen to me, folks. The key word here is public. If you don't want it to be a public event, don't put it on Facebook. Advertise it on Twitter. Don't send out massive bombs and then get your panties on in a twist when somebody shows up with the camera. You want it private, keep it private. You just tell your local friends, and you tell your friends to keep it private. While I'm on the subject of cameras, when you're at these public events, do you actually think that no one's going to film? That no one's going to snap a selfie? Please. But that's pretty much what happens. I mean, what are you hiding here? A friend of mine, John Abrahamson, you guys probably know him, he does Blues Movers, he does a great videographer, really great guy. He was at a Rand Paul event a few weeks back, and somebody actually plucked his press pass, like took it out. I think it was you, Janet, that was telling me the story. Said, oh, we don't want them, the press isn't allowed here. Well, let me tell you something. Think about that for a minute. Rand Paul doesn't want press coverage? Really? Seriously? I doubt that 100%. But let me tell you, you know what would make an even better story? Is that if Rand Paul didn't want press coverage. Never mind if Rand Paul could say, I believe 100% man-made global warming. I got news for you. That would get some press coverage, and then 2 days later it would die out. But if a whole bunch of press people got thrown out of a Rand Paul event, that has mileage.
3 weeks.
That has mileage. That makes a far better story. In fact, I have been thrown out Charlie Baker events, Kate Campanelli events. I get rejection emails all the time from candidates. They don't want to be covered by citizen press. Everybody here has probably either seen one or two of the videos I did from the candidate interviews. I send people copies of them. I have a whole business mission statement and stuff I send everybody when I introduce myself. Half of them say no. Not because it's like I'm too busy. They say no, they don't want to speak to citizen journalists. I've been trying to cover all sorts of stories here in Massachusetts. I can't. I have off-the-record information. I can't divulge. I can't write about it. I need somebody to come forward and say, you know, and I'll talk about that with you. Yeah, come on, let's get on the phone. We'll do a show. Then I can talk about it. All these people are doing by denying the press, telling you can't film, press is not allowed, officer, please take this person away. They're cooking their own goose. It makes a far better story. You just said there, 3 weeks, easily, without breaking a sweat. They're cooking their own goose. But I'm going to tell you something right now. I've just about had it. I really have. Next time I get an earful from one of these dimwits at one of these public events, Not only will I remind them of the things I spoke about earlier, I've got a little speech I've written that I can synopsis it in about 3 or 4 sentences. I'm going to file some civil rights charges. Anyone who's complicit in it or responsible for it, and you should too. Nobody has the right to do that. It is a violation of your God-given rights and have been codified in the First Amendment of the Constitution. Anybody denying you that right is violating your civil rights. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Now, this is normally the point in the event where we have other people come up and tell us about their events or their announcements. Of course, I'm not letting that happen because, again, the august power that is invested in me because I'm the president. Mostly because I'm just going to focus on 3 simple things right before we bring Tom up. And Tom is our headliner, and yes, I still want to be Cato, but we'll get to that. First off, everybody should realize that the Worcester Tea Party is a volunteer organization. We are not actually funded by the Koch brothers, and I am not fabulously wealthy. Nor is any of the members of the districts or any of the people in this organization wealthy. It does cost money to do this. It does cost money to have the Facebook and the websites and the email. So please, if you are able, there's this big fishbowl with some cash in it. If you can make that even more, we need about, what is it, about $70 a week we were talking about, Ken? I'm sorry, a month.
A week would be great.
$70 a week would be even better. You know, we could get like business cards.
If we got 70 a week, Mac could give a check.
Yeah. I'd like business cards. If I could get a business card and maybe like a wardrobe loan. But that's really one of the reasons why
every president should have an honorary tri-corner hat.
Exactly. A tri-corner hat, maybe some lapel pins, business cards. Did I mention business cards? Business cards. You go to one of these events, you meet all these people, and you're writing down your phone number a million times. It takes a lot of time. Business cards. Did I mention? So, if you have a couple of bucks and you were thinking of buying me a beer, as much as I like beer, please put it in the fishbowl. Number 2, very good-looking gentleman here in black vest. His name is Edward Wagner. Edward Wagner is becoming a hero of mine. He's visiting us from the Boston Tea Party, and I want to thank him for coming all this way here.
Hey, my name's John.
I also want to thank his friend John for I believe, driving him into the streets of Worcester. That's why we have it by Kelly Square, most dangerous intersection in all of Massachusetts, right here. Come on down, feel accomplished. We are planning on bringing an event to Massachusetts. There's a gentleman named Charles Murphy.
Murray.
Murphy's Law that I have to say that's wrong. Charles Murray, who has written a book about regaining our rights and our freedom based on civil disobedience. Now, most of you know that civil disobedience is like one of my top 10 favorite things. Beer, Mrs. O'Brien's civil disobedience. It's right there.
In that order, too.
In that order. I firmly believe that given a generous and justified amount of civil disobedience, that of course we will bring this government to heel quite effectively. Because, you know, well, we are the guys that give them the money that makes it work.
May I speak on this?
Certainly. Come on.
No, I don't know if I want to come out.
No, you can't record it. You don't have to do it.
Come on.
By the way, what Matt is moving in on this, that Murray had written this book. So I looked up the situation. Charles Murray is a fellow at the American Institute. He is possibly maybe one of the less than half dozen most famous social philosophers, social scientists of the last 50 years. He has written 2 or 3 or 4 bestsellers, including Losing Ground, The Bell Curve, and Coming Apart, I think was one of his most latest ones, and finally, By the People. And he has a thesis, a proposal or civil disobedience to thwart and foil the administrative state. This is for everybody who has been hauled in by the EPA, OSHA, HUD, any of those alphabet agencies who has an idea. It's for the people to stop the government without the benefit of finding a politician to help them. He wrote this book. I don't think he's doing a lot of book touring. We just asked him directly, and he said he was willing to come. So it's very important that we make this a big event. But this is not somebody who, this is one of the most important thinkers in politics and philosophy of a libertarian sort that has come around since the Civil War. And so I really think that this is something this idea is the most daring idea I have heard other than possibly Mark Levin's Constitutional Convention proposal. But this doesn't require political activity. This requires just individuals doing something and preparing a fund of lawyers to defend them. And he already has, he is on record as saying he has somebody who would devote $100 million to this effort. So this is something that will get off the ground if there's enough people doing it. But it also strikes me as just one of the purest Tea Party ideas on the earth. So that's why I want the Tea Party in particular to post it and give them the narrative and get it done.
So you understand that when Dean Chris here talks about how he wants to film a political event held by the Department of Justice in the city of Worcester at a City of Worcester school with the auspices of the City of Worcester, and they tell him he cannot film, Charles Murray would provide legal counsel to support him.
I think a legal foundation isn't for that sort of thing, but that sort of thing is something that ought to have a legal foundation too. And that was the first idea that came up, because that all these citizen journalists ought to have some legal foundation to repair to, so they're not shelling it out of their own pockets every time they get home. And that, I would say that would go for, like, when people like Ralph Zazula bring their cameras to polling places and they get called in. Usually illegally, they should have something too.
Absolutely. So that is what we're trying to do. We're going to bring somewhere between Worcester and Boston. With respect to my dear friend, Patrick Humphreys, if you could just raise your hand, because the president of the Boston Tea Party is also here. And he has business cards, I think. We will be doing this in August, I believe. We have windows scheduled. He's given us some dates. We have to find a location. But we're going to need you guys to help us with this. Frankly, there's only so much one fat guy that sells paint for a living can do, and I need your help with that. Bless you. I'm also going to need your help with one other event that I'm going to talk about at the end of this conversation. But before we bring in Tom, I just want to say one quick thing. You know, there's false narratives. Whenever we talk about false narratives, I always like to bring up a story from the golden age of radio. The golden age of radio, everybody has heard about Orson Welles and his broadcast of the World of Worlds. My father was alive at that time. I asked him, I said, hey, were people panicking in the streets thinking Martians had landed? No, nobody knew. I mean, my father had listened to the radio because, of course, that was the biggest radio show. I Love Lucy, or, that was what everybody listened to, and most Americans said, "Oh wow, this is really good. This is the way radio should be. I really feel part of it because it was reported." Very much the same way that at that time the wars in Europe and Asia were being reported. That Martians had landed in New Jersey and they were taking over the East Coast, and there were reporting it. But nobody was terrified because nobody really thought there were Martians in New Jersey. Jersey into New Jersey.
That's enough, close enough.
But if you ask anybody today, if you ask your people who haven't actually lived through that experience, they'll say, oh yeah, everybody was panicked in the streets. There were people who got their guns and were driving to New Jersey to fight the aliens. And you know, other people will say, oh yes, I read a story about a woman who was committed suicide because she didn't want to be vaporized by the Martians. And of course, none of this really happened. This was a false narrative produced by newspapers. Repeated and repeated and repeated. Newspapers put forward stories, and I don't mean any disrespect to you, Tom. I know you're a newspaper man. But you're not afraid of the radio. Newspapers in the 30s were afraid of the radio. They were afraid that they were going to be replaced by radio news, and there'd be no newspapers, and they'd be out of a cushy job that provided them with business cards. But this is what and they always reported that these events didn't maybe happen in their city, that the Manhattan newspapers reported that this happened in Chicago, and the Chicago newspapers reported this happened in St. Louis, and the St. Louis newspapers reported that this happened in Manhattan. That people heard this on the radio, and it's scurrilous, horrible story, and they were driven to the most distraction. Really, you should never get your news from the radio. Because you can't trust those people. If they told you the aliens invaded New Jersey, you need to have your upstanding, socially responsible newspaper man tell you what was really going on. This is a false narrative, and this is what people remember. People remember this story. People in the radio business don't even know this. This is a false narrative. This never happened. If you talk to anybody, and I assume there's probably plenty of people who are still alive, who will tell you, yeah, I heard that radio program. I thought it was a tremendous radio program. But no, I did not think for a second that New Jersey was taken over by Martians and tripods with death threats. But that's what is published in the newspaper, and that's what remains. So these false narratives are big and large, and they serve an agenda. Now we have a gentleman here who is a hero to the Republic, and I've often compared him to Britt Reed, another golden age of radio hero. Britt Reed is a courageous, crusading journalist, owns a newspaper, and just happens at night to drive around in a beautiful black car with his sidekick Cato fighting crime. Now, I will grant that there are very few pictures of Tom Duggan driving around at night in a beautiful black car fighting crime. But, if somebody was going to do it, it would be Tom Duggan. Tom, come on up here.
The Green Hornet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Always back there with Justin. First of all, I want to thank my waitress. She's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so let me just give you a little bit about myself, because I know some of you know who I am, and some of you know what I do. You don't know who I am. I own the Valley TV newspaper. I also have a radio program on WCAP and an author. I just published my first book in February called Fighting Spirit, about Lowell Acre and Bobby Costacos, who's a 5-time Golden Glove winner for Lowell. And I've done a million things in media. I've worked at WTKK as a producer. I worked for J7, Jeanine Graff. I worked at Rumbo newspaper in Lawrence, which is a bilingual newspaper that only columns translated from English to Spanish. I worked in a couple of TV stations that introduced me to I've been an elected official. I served in the Lawrence School Committee. You want to talk about baptism by fire in the media? Wow. The first day I got elected to the Lawrence School Committee, first day I took office in the Lawrence School Committee, front page headline, former employer accused of Tom Duggan of stealing tools at previous job. People, my first day, calling for my resignation. So I went up to Eagle Tribune, who was the, unfortunately, the newspaper that wrote that story, and I showed them copies of my check stubs from the security firm that I worked at a year before the construction was done on the site where I was accused of stealing tools. And when I showed it to them, I said, I didn't even work there when that happened. Like, you just went to a former employer, had them badmouth me, put it on the front page of the paper with no evidence. And it was a lot younger and a lot stupider than that back then. Today I would drag their ass into court. But back then I was young. And I 26 years old, elected to the school committee, I didn't know what to do. So I just decided to fight back from the podium. And as a school board member, I used to attack the Eagle Tribune every night, and usually bring the Eagle Tribune with me with all the things that they had wrong circled. And when it came to my time to talk, I would call them out from the microphone. A lot of people in politics can't do that because they want a political future. I didn't really care if I had a political future. I just wanted to be on the school committee while I was on the school committee, do a good job while I was there. I'm also the son of a slain police officer. This really kind of shaped the way I saw media, probably more than my experience in the Lawrence School Committee, because my dad was loved by the Latinos in Lawrence. And they even had a nickname for him. And he was one of the few white cops that, even though he didn't speak English, speak Spanish fluently, he understood Spanish very well. So he could size up a situation where everybody was talking in a different language, and he would pretty much know what to do, you know, because he didn't speak Spanish, they thought he had no idea what he was saying. When my father was killed, he was killed by killed by a guy named Willie Rodriguez, who was Puerto Rican. His girlfriend, Doris Ortiz, Puerto Rican. And even though 2/3 of the Latinos in Lawrence were actually in my father's funeral procession, because that's how much they loved him, none of that mattered to Channel 7. And even, by the way, Channel 3 at the time in Lawrence was the local cable access. They were like, there was a woman who worked there who was kind of like the Chris Maider, only she was really liberal. And so even at the local cable access level, they were asking, you know, these really liberal, thoughtful questions that were going to make you all feel, you know, a little bit more enlightened. Like, you know, how come there are no Latinos on the jury when Daniel Murray, my father, was brought to court? And talking about how, geez, you know, there's no Latinos in the jury, and this was racism, and they pushed this racist narrative that my father was this racist cop, and that had a huge impact on my family. Because we were a family that had ridden in a limo during a funeral, where we looked behind us, and after the 1,500 cops that had come from all over the country, behind them was another 1,000 to 2,000 Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, El Salvadorians, Mexicans, every Latino group you can imagine joining in because they loved my father. Now, you know, look, it's right there in front of you, but it didn't fit the narrative. The facts didn't fit the narrative. When I went to the Eagle Tribune and I said, here's my check stub, I didn't work there when there was construction, I couldn't have stolen any tools, well, that didn't fit their narrative. They never once to this day, that was 20-something years ago, they never once to this day retracted that story. In fact, not only did they not retract that story, when they would write subsequent articles about me, it would be school committeeman Tom Duggan, who was fighting for a previous job for stealing tools. Right? It became my name. That's one of the ways that the media pushes their narrative. If they don't like a political elected official, there's little words that they can use. They don't lie. And that's how they get away with it. They don't lie. Sometimes they lie, but most of the time they don't. They just find trickier ways to tell the truth. So, for example, if you're a conservative guy in a liberal community like Lawrence and you're on the school committee, and they write negative and inaccurate things about you, and they do it enough, now they get to call you embattled. Right? Embattled school committee and Tom Duggan voted for the budget this week to give mentally retarded children an after-school program for $9 million. Embattled school committee and Tom Duggan. Right? So the media narrative was that even when Tom Duggan was doing something good, they had to use the adjective. They had to use the narrative So that while you're thinking something slightly good about Tom Duggan, you still really don't like him. He's a battle. He's controversial. That's the other one, controversial. They make you controversial. And they make you embattled. And they go to your enemies and they say, hey, isn't that awful what Tom Duggan did last week? Why don't you get a quote about what Tom Duggan did last week? And then they use that person's quote to describe you as embattled. Because that's their narrative. That's a little bit of who I am. I just wanted to kind of give you an encapsulation of, like, how is it that I came to be in the media and have the perspective that I do. It's not just because I work here. It's not just because I own a newspaper. It was decades of being covered badly by the media. All right, so there's different ways that the media pushes their narrative and their well, sometimes they're lies. I don't want to say that they're not lies, but sometimes hands up, don't shoot, right? That was a lie, right? But then there are other things that aren't lies, like I can't breathe, right? He actually said it, he actually couldn't breathe, he actually died. But they wanted I can't breathe to equal bad cops. So there's no connect between I can't breathe and this guy automatically will be guilty because he can't breathe. Just like hands up, don't shoot, right? And it's not just the news media. It's Hollywood, it's New York, it's Jon Stewart. I think Jon Stewart is one of the most dangerous men in America today. Because people who are watching it don't have their guard up. When you're watching the news, whether you're liberal, or you're conservative, or you're middle of the road, you kind of have your guard up, right? Because you know at some point they're going to slip something in. You know at some point they're just going to lie to you. When you're watching Jon Stewart or this new one, The Nightly Show, or some of these, Saturday Night Live was mentioned earlier, another great propaganda, right? Your guard is down, you're being entertained. You're at night, usually they're late at night, when your brain's kind of shut down a little bit, getting ready for bed, turn the bed down. You're not on your guard, that's when they want you. And you'll notice if you watch Jon Stewart, I watch it every night. He's brilliant. He's one of the brilliant men alive, right? Because he can go to the news, and he can take the news, and he can twist it. And because he's a comedian, he can lie and exaggerate, and it's okay. Because, hey, I'm a comedian, right? Don't take me serious, I'm a comedian. While he's attacking Republicans, while he's attacking Christians, while he's attacking pro-life people, while they're painting the Tea Party as a bunch of racist, sexist, racist. It's ridiculous, but you know, the average person out there doesn't come to Tea Party meetings. They don't read newspapers anymore. They're not listening to the radio for their news when they're in their car. They're listening to music, or satellite, or something else. So what they get of the news, they're getting from pop culture. This is the reason why there's an attack on the Duggars. This is the reason why Tim Tebow, which was mentioned earlier, was attacked. It wasn't so much because he was conservative. That was the offense. But the reason the media went nuclear is because they were conservatives in pop culture. And they understand, the news media in Hollywood understand better than anybody, that the best way to change the culture is through pop culture. It's the music, it's the movies, it's the TV shows, it's the comedians, it's the entertainment. We watch news and we can decide if we like it or we don't. We watch a political show, we can decide if we like it or we don't. When we're watching a comedian, we're not making those decisions. And they know it. The media has one job, and one job only. And this goes for conservative media and liberal media. Their job is to put mental images into your head. They decide what those mental images are based on the way they describe things. As I said earlier, like with combatants. I actually wrote a couple of notes here just so that I'm just going to wander off track like I did last time a little bit. Okay. All right, so they have these mental images that they want to put into your head, and I'll just give you like a benign example, right? The two ladies that are sitting here, the Tomaselli sisters, live in Salisbury. I've been writing a story about the corruption in Salisbury involving their case for at least 3 years. This month, in this particular edition that I'm holding here and they're in the back, is a story about Neil Harrington, their town manager. And I described them in my story as elderly. And they called me all upset. Why did you have to do that? And when I explained to them, they actually not only understood, but why did I call them elderly? And my answer was the same reason that the mainstream media chooses the words that they do. Because they're victims. And the best way to portray them as victims is to use victim language, right? The media has all these different words, these cute little words that they use. It's very hard for them to call you pro-life. They're going to call you what? Anti-choice, right? Because that puts a different mental image into your head than saying that you're pro-life. If you're pro-life, that almost has a positive connotation, unless they poison it. But anti-choice, well, you're against the Constitution. You're against people's rights. How dare you? I mean, that almost has an I dare you at the end of it, doesn't it? Anti-choice? What the hell is wrong with you people? Right? And that's how they act. And it works its way not only into their news stories, but into their fake news. Now, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, CNN, they all do fake news, right? They have opinion shows that have a TV screen behind them that show you what they're talking about. They have a little chyron on the bottom that tells you the breaking news about all the other stuff that you're not paying attention to, or you're supposed to be paying attention to that. And then Bill O'Reilly or Sean Hannity or Chris Matthews comes out, and they're sitting at what looks like a news desk, and they bring out a guest that looks like a news interviewee. And then they sit there and they mutually masturbate each other about their politics. And so you sit there and you're thinking, this is news. No, I'm sorry. So no, oh, brilliant. So you know, they want you to think that this is news. Now, you guys know it's not news because you're involved, you're active, you read the paper, you watch the news all the time. But they're not preaching to you, and they're not preaching to their base. They're preaching to the people who are drive-bys, the people who are flipping through channels looking for Seinfeld, and they see something that they're familiar to them or that might interest them, and they stop for 5 or 10 minutes. And then when they're done watching the fake news, which is O'Reilly and Matthews and all that, then they move back over to Seinfeld and they think they've learned something. And they also think they've watched the news. Hey, I watched the news. I was on Fox News. I was watching Fox News and I saw that thing. Remember that Hannity guy? You know Sean Hannity, you're a great American, you're a great American, you're a great American. Hey, you're a great American. I'm a great American. You're a better American. That's not news.
You're damn right I am.
It's good news. But the right has just as much of a narrative as the left. I want to kind of transition a little bit now when I'm talking about it to something else. It all kind of goes together. I'm going to bring it all back at the end if I have enough time. About, when was that in cost, ladies? 2 years ago? 2 years ago? So 2 or 3 years ago, I'm sitting in my office and I'm watching, I have 3 screens going over a white screen, and the major screen on I have is Fox News. By the way, my favorite is Al Jazeera. We can talk about that after here, that's a while. They've got a great product. They're wrong about everything, but they've got a way better product than the rest. So I'm watching Fox News, and I see breaking news. You know that bing, breaking news. And the breaking news story, this is of national importance. We have to break into whatever it is that we're doing because this is the most important thing in the world. A high school volleyball player was suspended in North Andover because she was at a drinking party rescuing her friend as a drunk driver. Or a drunk driver. And because North Andover has a, quote, zero tolerance policy against these kinds of things, she lost her captaincy and was suspended from the volleyball team for, I don't know, like 10 games or something. 3 games, 10 games. So I'm watching this on TV, and of course now I'm furious because I'm the guy in North Andover. I'm the news guy in North Andover. Half the cops I've either related to, I've dated their sisters, I've hung out at their houses, I've been at their homes for Thanksgiving dinner. How is it possible nobody called me about this? I'm watching it on Fox News. So I pick up the phone and start calling people. And I got to a couple of police officers who said to me, Tom, I just watched the same news broadcast you did. I have no effing clue what they're talking about. So I just saw it on Fox News, so I started flipping around and CNN's got it. So CNN ran it for like, 30 seconds, they moved on. Fox News had like a whole panel discussion on this. Ellen Cox from North Andover, zero tolerance policy. She was at the party because she was helping her drunk friend. She was the designated driver. This is why zero tolerance policies are bad. And they went on and on. They had like a full 2-hour discussion on zero tolerance policies in school. And I got a cop on the phone telling me it never happened. So I started calling administrators at the schools who were freaking out because every news outlet in the country was calling North Andover High School. But I happened to get one person that I happened to know, and she said to me, Tom, what you need to do is what nobody else in the media has done. You need to talk to the parents of the kids who were at that party too. And you need to go to court, because I understand that there's something that was filed in court between the time this happened and the time Fox News started talking about it. So I did. I called some of the parents, and the parents told me, right out front, the first parent said to me, we have video of Erin Cox drunk out of her mind at this party, throwing up into a garbage bin. My kid took it. When he got home, I transferred it, and I have it. We gave it to the schools, we gave it to the police, and somehow Fox News went on this. They were the first ones to break it. Now, why am I bringing up Fox News? I can pick on anything tonight, right? Because Fox News is like our favorite, because they suck less than the rest of them.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's not that they're great, they just suck less than everybody else.
Not as much as NPR.
Right, well, that's true. All right, you're right. That's true. But those of us on the right respond to the same mental images and the same dog whistle issues as those on the left. The left hears a story about the possibility of a Tea Party guy going out with a gun and shooting somebody. They want it to be true. It doesn't matter what the details are. They're going to spread that to everybody they can because it fits their narrative, it carries their narrative, it makes them right, it makes them important. We do the same thing. We don't realize we do the same thing because we're so busy pointing our fingers at everybody else. After I talked to the parents, after I heard about and saw the video, after I started calling police officers and all this, I actually went to the court. I sent my attorney to court to get copies of the court action that was filed by Erin Cox's mom. And here's what we found out. It never happened. It never happened. But what the Cox family did when their daughter got caught at a drinking party was they called Wendy Murphy, the famous media attorney. You know her, the Duke lacrosse rape case that never happened, that the media ran with, and ran, that never happened. They went to her, and they hired her because Erin Cox wanted to get into college on a volleyball scholarship, and they wanted to bully the school into removing the suspension and putting her back as captain of the team. They didn't want to sustain her for the rest of her life now that it's been in the newspaper. And Wendy Murphy went to Fox News because she has a contract with Fox News. And I don't believe that Wendy Murphy told Fox News that this is her client. She went on to opine as some kind of neutral observer that this is why zero tolerance policies are bad. So after 2 days of investigating this, going through this, talking to people, knowing that the narrative was wrong, knowing that the facts were wrong, I talked to the superintendent of the Vanderbilt schools. And I don't know why I hadn't called him sooner. But I called him and I just said, just as like a side thing, just so that I can wrap my head around this, can you do me a favor, can you email me a copy of your zero tolerance policy for my story? Because we're a monthly paper. I don't believe in drive-by journalism. I'm not trying to get the story before everyone else, even though maybe my facts might not be correct. I was looking for the long-term, in-depth story, and I called the superintendent and I said, just need a copy of your zero tolerance policy, and he laughed. And when he finished laughing, he laughed for a while, too. And I couldn't figure, why is this guy laughing? He said, Tom, do you realize that this story's been in the news now for 3 or 4 days, and you're the first person to call me and ask me even if we had a zero tolerance policy. And the reason I'm laughing, Tom, is because we don't have one. What? You don't have one? What do you mean you don't have one? He said, look, I don't know where this zero tolerance policy thing came from in the news, but no one called me. Can you imagine Shepard Smith lead it off at 2 o'clock with the story, right? You had Wolf Blitzer at 5 o'clock doing at least a 20-minute panel discussion. You had MSNBC trying to downplay it because zero tolerance isn't part of their narrative as much. But it was a teenager, and it was a white, affluent school district, so they touched it. But it was Fox that ran with it, and they ran with it, and they ran with it, and they ran with it. Why? Because of the dog whistle issue of zero tolerance. That fits our narrative. So it's not as important to the conservative media to fully investigate because they want on the surface what they see to be true. They want you to see what's on the surface to be true, even if it turns out at the end of the day that it's not. Now, one of the reasons I always talk about this when I do talks is because the best part about this whole story is that after we did the full investigation, got the court records, and it turned out, by the way, just as a side note, that the law was anyway for a Title IX lawsuit against the school, and that's why she hired Wendy Murphy to go on Fox News and drum up all of this stuff about zero tolerance. Because she was claiming that a football player earlier had been treated differently than her little volleyball angel. And so she was priming the pump in the media so that she could benefit from a lawsuit. That's not the best part. The best part is when we blew the story out in print and online, and Xerox copies of actual court documents with the Title IX stuff in it, where she herself admits in court documents that her daughter was drunk at this party. Fox News, CNN, New England Cable News, 4, 5, and 7, 38, the New Hampshire channels, you know what they all did within an hour? They stopped reporting the story. But here's what they didn't do. They didn't come on and say, by the way, further investigation has led us to believe that this Aaron Cox stuff that we've been talking about, it may not be correct. They never told you, the consumer, even Fox News, never told you as the consumer that what they were saying for the last 3 or 4 days was simply 100% not true. They couldn't even come out and couch it a little bit and say, we can't verify that it's true. Right? I'm not even looking for a full mea culpa from the media. I just want them to let their listeners know, their readers know, their consumers know what's true and what's not true. What they care most? What they care most about is the narrative. All right, so I'll jump around a little bit. I'm gonna grab a couple of things. How much time do I have, by the way?
2 minutes.
2? Holy crap. All right. All right. So there's one more thing. All right. So if I don't have that much time, I wanna focus on this because actually the reason I wanted to speak tonight. The media uses a phrase, and I want you to understand this really, really clearly because once I tell you this, you'll never hear this phrase again the same way. The media uses the phrase right wing for a reason. And it's not necessarily, it may not necessarily be the reason you think. First of all, you never hear the phrase left-wing extremist. Anybody hear of a news story about a left-wing extremist, environmentalist that blew up something? No? Right? Remember all those wacky environmentalists out west a few years ago that were blowing up car dealerships because they were destroying the planet? Never once were they accused of being called left-wing extremists. But boy,
Liberal, progressive. Sometimes they use radical as a compliment.
right? Yeah, radical compliment is left, right? Right? They use right-wing extremist for a reason, and the reason is you have to think in the mind of a liberal, because to them. Right, and around the world, a right-wing extremist is a Nazi. In the world, a right-wing extremist is a flipping Nazi. So when they're talking around the rest of the world, when Obama goes to another country, he talks about right-wing extremists in America. He wants them to think we're Nazis. And when liberals like Jeff Santos on WCAP talk about the evil right wing, he wants us to be equated with the Nazis. I got news for all of you guys, and I'd like you to take this out to everybody you talk to. There's nothing right-wing about Nazis.
No.
Fascism was left-wing.
National socialist
Right.
working
Our education system and our media and Hollywood have redefined what Nazism and fascism is and has been forever. Think about it. Dennis Prager put it perfectly. Think about the political spectrum. The further left you go, the more government control you have, right? You have liberalism, progressivism, socialism, communism, fascism, right? The further to the right you go, the less government control you have. You have conservatism, and then you have, what else?
Republican.
Libertarian, until eventually you get to anarchy. They put anarchy on the left, and they put fascism on the right, because they identify with anarchists, and they hate fascists. So rather than the truth, which is what they're supposed to talk about, which is supposed to be what they do, they've taken the two and they've dispersed them. And then they take that, and everywhere they go, especially when they're among fellow liberals, fellow so-called progressives, fellow socialists, they talk about us all as if we're right wing, and they use language that likens us to the Nazis. They're trying to take away their rights. Right? We're all walking around like brown shirts with our guns on. This is done by design. And by the way, media, it's not just New England, it's not just Fox, CNN, wow, that was 3 long in a row. I'm gonna throw you right off the stage. It's not just CNN, it's not just ABC, it's not just CBS, it's not just the newspapers, it's newspapers, blogs, radio, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+. They're everywhere. And the narrative is getting stronger and stronger. Let me end with this. Just want to make sure I don't forget anything. All right, I forgot one thing, but maybe I'll work it in. Charleston, South Carolina. What a huge difference that's going to make in the next 10 years for our social fabric in this country. The media stoked Ferguson with their fake lie, hands up, don't shoot. They stoked it in Baltimore with their phony narrative about the evil white cops gunning down. Oh, everybody see that interview in Baltimore, by the way, 2 days after the riots? Everybody see the black girl that they interviewed? I was walking down the street and I seen that white police officer gun down that poor black boy, and she starts crying. He shot him in the back. I played this on my radio show. People were stunned how racist Tom Duggan was until the end. When she was done talking about how she witnessed with her own eyes a white police officer shoot a poor young black boy in the back who had no gun and wasn't doing nothing wrong. And then we find out the kid was never shot. The police never discharged his weapon. The kid who never had no gun had a gun. It fell and discharged. It didn't hit anybody. But Shepard Smith had it live on the air while it was going on. This is the media narrative that then CNN pushes for 3 hours, and MSNBC pushes for 9 hours. That was just a side note. I'm sorry. I'm working on time. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. I'm on radio, so I can talk really fast. I don't know if you noticed that. Charleston, South Carolina. When you look at Ferguson, Baltimore, Atlanta, you look at how the media stoked black violence, black hatred for whitey, black hatred for America because of what America did 400 years ago when none of us were alive. They stoke it and they stoke it and they stoke the victim mentality in the black communities. They teach these kids as they're growing up, you've got 2 strikes against you no matter what you do. And so of course if they think they've got 2 strikes against them no matter what they do, they're going to say, well, you know what am I saving myself for? I might as well go and buy some drugs or rob a store or dance on top of a police car lighting on fire. I've already got no future, what's the point? Until Charleston. And what was weird is that when it happened in Charleston the first night, the media went into overdrive, black versus white, blacks are victims, whites are evil. That's the narrative. Black equals evil, right? They put the mental images into people's minds. Guns are evil. A white man with a gun is really evil. And we're going to go back to Ferguson for a minute. White guys with uniforms and guns are really, really evil, right? And they were expecting rocks and bottles and fires. They were all getting ready. They were using all the same language as Baltimore and Ferguson. Until the next morning when some of the families got up in court and did something nobody expected. And forgave him. And there was no rioting. And there were no rocks. And there was no violence. And the media reported it because I was watching Brooke Baldwin outside. You could see the corpuscles in her head about to explode. She didn't know how, they had no idea how to report this because there was no narrative. Where's the book? I don't understand. Like, wait a minute. So there's no violence, but okay, so there's no victim. And then when that preacher got up and said, and I want to thank the police officers, I don't care what anybody says, there were 5 or 6 white police officers who took this guy into custody, and they did a fantastic job. Now CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS, they had no idea how to cover the story. And it was fascinating to watch from a news perspective.
Cut to the next story.
Right? Yeah.
Next story.
It was fascinating to watch because I've seen this movie before. Like, we already know when Baltimore happened. We know from Ferguson how this is going to end. And all of a sudden, it didn't. And Brooke Baldwin's live on the air interviewing somebody, and she's actually giving 2 different narratives. Because on the one hand, they're blacks, so they're victims. And they forgave them, which is bad. But they're blacks, so they're victims. And, but the black preacher said that the white cops were doing a good job, and they didn't know whether or not to report that the families were idiots for forgiving them, or whether or not they were geniuses and they were wonderful because by virtue of being black, they're heroes. And all of a sudden, for the first time in a long time, America got a real story.
True.
Right? We got a real story out of Charleston. We got. I put this on Facebook the other day as a random comment, and I figured I'd end with this today. the difference between Ferguson and Baltimore and Atlanta and Charleston. Right? You had terrible violence, victim mentality, white versus black. The difference between the violence and the non-violence, there was only one thing. There was only one difference. Well, besides the media not knowing how to handle it. There was one other difference, and that was God. Right?
Yeah.
Amen.
The only difference between what happened with the godless, selfish people in Ferguson and the godless, selfish, violent people in Baltimore and the God-fearing, loving, forgiving black people in North Carolina was God. And that's the one thing the media will never tell you.